Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Are you drawn to the dark? Do you find yourself enticed in the forbidden and ominous? Join me, Steph, as I explore all things menacing and malevolent in my podcast, Sinister Story Hour. I discuss true stories of cults and crimes with the occasional urban legend. I also dedicate episodes to missing persons in the United States. And you could be the missing link to provide information and clues that will help to bring them home. Join me every week for a new story. Come on in, sit down, and get ready, because it's story time.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck a lot. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm a Harry Dillon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like a Sam Squinch? What does that mean?
I need a haircut. I was just in the bathroom and I look ridiculous.
The humidity has your hair all curly. It's really cute. I've been trying to talk you into getting a perm.
Oh my god!
I think we mentioned this a while back.
You've mentioned this about 100 times on the podcast.
But no, it's not. Don't exaggerate. But you don't even need a perm now.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, I'm Hall and Oates.
You do. You look like Oates. Clap clap.
I always forget which one's which.
I'm Oates. Do you remember the Saturday Night Live skit when they would do like they had the Blue Oyster Cult with Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
But they would do like the behind the music, and they had one that was Hall and Oates, and Chris Kattan the whole time would just go, and I'm Oates, clap, clap.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It was pretty funny.
Chris Kattan was underrated. I always thought he was really funny.
The mango.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always thought he was a really funny guy.
This is a random fact, but do you know for a long time he dated Jennifer Coolidge?
No.
I want a hot dog real bad.
Are you kidding me?
No.
That seems like
I know, right? But I kind of love that they were together.
Okay. You're full of random facts.
I know. I'm a great trivia partner. It's too bad no one ever takes me to trivia.
I will take you, and I'll let you do all the work.
Dylan, we're like a day or two late, but it's my fault. It's my fault. I had to go take a little tour of the Midwest.
You know, I do appreciate you actually accepting responsibility for that, because it's usually my fault, and I think our listeners were going to assume it's my fault again.
Like I said, I was touring the Midwest.
Yes, it turns out Indiana is very beautiful.
Madison, Indiana is a really quaint little river town.
You said it.
The downtown is adorable. It's like picturesque. Yes, it's picturesque. Beautiful little houses and row houses and these really cool historic buildings. And it's right on the Ohio River. I had a ball.
And I forget how big the Ohio River is. It's huge.
Yes, they do a regatta there.
What is that?
Like a boat race.
Oh, okay.
And it's with these hydroplane boats.
Oh, wow. That sounds cool.
So I actually got to see one of the boats. It was like sitting out, and I watched a few videos on it because I was like, okay, what's this? And looked it up on YouTube. And these boats will like flip and shit.
What?
It's pretty cool.
Okay. I think I've seen the hydroplaning boats. Wow. We started out super random.
Well, that's who we are, Dylan. Before we get into today's case, let's thank our newest patrons, sponsors of this week's episode. We have Lauren and Mar.
Mar and Lauren, thank you so much. Cool names. We have so many cool patrons lately. We have sponsors almost every week, and we really appreciate it.
Yes, and if you would like to sponsor a show, support the podcast, go to patreon.com/mountainmurderspodcast.
You can.
For
And
just a few dollars a month, you can support the show, get those ad-free episodes.
look, if we get me an all khaki outfit, we can do one of those commercials like the Save the Children commercials back in the day. It'd be like, just for the cost of a cup of coffee, you can sponsor these podcasters for a month. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I know exactly. It was Suzanne Summers.
Well, there was her, and then there was the dude.
The guy, but I don't know what his name was. I don't know his name.
No, but he was always in all khaki shorts and button up, and he
Yeah,
had-
almost like he was going on a safari.
yeah, and he had like white hair, like
Yes.
a beard and
Yes.
stuff. You know you know the thing.
He was like a safari Santa Claus.
Gosh, and I was like, well, you can help that kid that's standing right beside you. You should help that kid.
I know, right?
You look like you ate well last night. Help that kid, bud.
All right, Dylan, you got anything else for us?
No, actually, I'm very excited about the case this week, and let's get into it.
All right. I'm ready for this, Dylan. And don't forget, folks, we have a merch store. We've already had some listeners get their merch. They say it's quick ship. They get it within just a few days of ordering. It's high quality stickers, t-shirts, mugs, tumblers. We have it, everything.
I gotta say that I'm blown away by the quality of all the merch. I mean, honestly, usually when you hear fast, quick, it's you kind of you let go of the quality, but it's all the high standards. I mean, I'm blown away. It's so incredible, and I can't wait to get some of my T-shirts I'm ordering.
Okay, Dylan. Well, I'm going to post the link in today's show notes where you can access our merch store. Go check it out. The prices are I've got pretty good price points.
They're great.
All right, Dylan, let's get into today's case. You said you're ready. I'm ready. Let's make this happen. Lexington, South Carolina is where we're going to be today.
I didn't know there was a Lexington, South Carolina.
It's down near Columbia.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about Lexington, Dylan. Lexington, South Carolina is considered a suburb of the state capital, Columbia. Now it's considered one of the fastest growing cities in the Midlands. In 1735, King George II established 11 townships in the backcountry of South Carolina to encourage settlement. Two major Native American trails existed, the Cherokee Path, which provided trade routes between Charleston and the Appalachian Mountains, and another, the Occoneechee Path, which connected the Chesapeake Bay region to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia.
Which would be very important because you have a port, right, or a port region, and then you're getting all the goods into
Charleston's a huge port city. It was very important, especially in the beginning during like colonial times.
Yeah, I think that was very one of the first, what would you call it? Entry points that was noticed and easily accessed. Of course, everything was hard back then, but easier.
Port?
More easier. Oh, my God.
I just said port.
Yeah. That's called a port.
Entry point? Yeah, it's called a port, Dylan.
It's like a natural thing where you can bring a boat inside of it, you know?
Wow.
Phew. Lord, I studied all week long for this one.
You made an A in geography and history class, didn't you?
How did you know?
It was in Lexington County in 1785 after the battles of Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. During the Civil War, as Sherman marched through the South, most of the town was burned to the ground. Like much of the southern states after the war, the area struggled, but farming and lumber helped stabilize the economy. And by the late 1890s, the railroad and textile mills helped expand the area. By 1930, with the creation of Lake Murray, more people were encouraged to move to Lexington. Now it's considered a conservative area filled with God-fearing people. It's a good place to live by most standards, thriving economy, affordable homes, good parks, safe schools, and not too far off from the capital.
So it sounds like an older place with a lot of history.
A rich history, absolutely.
Important history.
So I thought I'd mention some of that history.
Well, thank you for that. You know what? I think nowadays they just open breweries, which encourage settlement in areas. Yeah, it's the modern day
That's what
thing. Yeah.
like hooks you in.
Yeah.
You judge an area by its beer.
in the proximity to a Chick-fil-A so Heather can get Sunjoys.
On September 13th, 1990, just after midnight, a 23-year-old nurse named Dana Grant, who worked at Lexington Medical Center, made a 911 call from an Amico garage near her home. Dylan, do you remember Amico's? That was a pretty popular gas station chain when I was growing up.
I can see their signage in my head right now.
Red, white, and blue, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very distinct. And yeah, they were everywhere.
Well, the young woman reported arriving at her family home located at 5037 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington to find the doors locked. When she banged on the door and called out, no one answered. This was highly unusual because Dana Grant's mother, Dorothy Mayfield, and her 14-year-old sister, Gina Grant, were normally home at this time. And it was common practice when she would get off work late, midnight, someone was there to let her in the house.
So instantly, she's maybe not concerned, but literally thinking, this is strange.
Yes.
Right.
To further this, kind of strangeness, Dylan, when she tried to unlock the door using a key, it seemed that the door was either pushed from inside, like someone was preventing her from coming through, in the door, or perhaps there was some sort of obstruction blocking the door.
Oh, so she has a key, so she goes to try to make entry, and the key works fine. It unlocks, but then she turns the knob and she goes to push on the door and it doesn't budge.
Right.
Which is a very odd thing, right?
So she meets resistance, and she's not sure if someone's pushing to close the door or there's something blocking it, but she's freaked out.
Well, this is how often do you push on any door in public or at home and it doesn't open?
Well, that happens to me quite a bit because I'll push a door and then realize that I'm supposed to pull it.
I'm like, just let me in, damn it.
Yeah, there's like an old Far Side cartoon that's like, the Institute for Geniuses or something, and the guy's like pulling on the push door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do that, and I'll like smack my face into the door because I think it's push. I think I can push and just keep moving, and bam. Or what really gets me is how in a lot of convenience stores, the one side, especially smaller convenience stores,
they keep the door locked.
Yeah, that locked door fucks me up, bro. It'd be getting me jacked up, dude.
Lexington County Sheriff's Deputy Tim Darling responded to this call, and he actually picked Dana Grant up from that Amico garage and drove to the Sunset Boulevard home. When they arrived at the brick colonial home, which rested privately on 2 acres just off Highway 378, they saw 14-year-old Gina Grant wandering around in an agitated state. Gina had dried blood on her hands, feet, and clothing.
Oh, my gosh.
Gina told her sister Dana that she had gotten into a fight with Mama. She said, quote, "Mama might be hurt or dead."
Damn. Now, I would be very freaked out at this point. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, you're already unsettled because, the strange things happening. And then you come back with the police and you see something like this.
Your 14-year-old sister.
Yeah.
Wandering around in this frenzied, kind of panic, agitated state.
Covered in blood. That's, oh my gosh.
Deputy Darling entered the home and immediately saw thick blood smears on the entryway floor. Inside the dining room, he found the body of a middle-aged woman, bloody and battered. She was dead. Upon closer observation, the deputy could see the woman had been, she had head lacerations and a kitchen knife sticking out of her throat.
Damn.
Detective Jay Phillips would later say it was the most violent, vicious homicide he has ever seen. Quickly, officers secured the scene. It appeared to Detective Phillips that the victim, 42-year-old Dorothy Mayfield, had been murdered in the kitchen, then dragged into the dining room. Dana Grant, upon learning the news of her mother's death, was shaken. Gina Grant seemed to be in a heightened state of excitement, likely due to adrenaline. A forensics team went to work examining the crime scene. A plastic bag was found in Gina Grant's bedroom containing blood-soaked towels, Dorothy's drenched jacket, and a heavy crystal candlestick caked with dried blood.
Now, okay, the dried blood aspect of it is kind of throwing me off a bit. Like, how long ago did this crime happen? You know what I mean? And to see a knife literally sticking out of someone's neck, even the seasoned investigator or police officer, I'm sure that was not something you see very often.
No.
Even if you have worked murders or, found dead bodies, things like that. And just, it sounds like there's blood everywhere.
Yes.
And all kinds of blood trace evidence and smears and drag marks and just, oh my gosh.
I'm no detective, Dylan.
Oh, what?
But I pretend to be one.
On TV.
I watch a lot of TV. No. I can't imagine these detectives. Each crime scene is unique and comes with its own challenges and disturbing sights, right?
Right.
But I can't imagine that in that line of work you ever get used to seeing this kind of thing.
No.
Every time it has got to be mind-blowing and take your breath away and very disturbing.
Yeah, and that's why there's a lot of burnout and investigators deal with a lot of issues, PTSD. I mean, this happens a lot, bad for, drinking or trying to self-medicate.
Same with paramedics.
Yeah, they just see such terrible things.
It's sad how often paramedics take their own lives. Because they just can't deal with the things they see on a day-to-day basis, multiple times a day.
Even an accident, just seeing a human mangled or distorted or, whatever, it's something that leaves a mark on you because it's unnatural. I think it goes against your own self-preservation just as a human, as a person, you know what I'm saying? And, trying to save someone and them dying right there in front of you, I don't know how they do it. And they certainly are very, very underpaid.
Well, these people who are willing to do those kinds of work, emergency services, paramedics, EMTs, firefighters, law enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are special people and they deal with a lot. And I think as a whole, as a society, we take for granted what these people actually do and what they see every day. I mean, they are seeing the worst of humanity, and they are seeing human beings in just these
faces of death situations, dude. Yeah.
Whether it's a natural death or a murder or an accident. I mean, they really are seeing things that we are just not really supposed to see, I think. You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely. And I think you nailed it. We take that for granted until you're in the heat of the moment and one of these people show up and say, help you. And you're, very, very one of your lowest moments. And I've actually been in some emergency situations in an industrial setting. And I work with some guys, and some people are like, oh, he's a firefighter, he does this, and he always does all kinds of training. And I gotta say, seeing these
you worked closely with a volunteer fireman.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, more than there was a few emergency response people, and there was a couple of them that were more than just nothing against, but they didn't just go a couple of days a week by the volunteer fire department. They did
training,
they dedicated
search
their
and
lives,
rescue,
yes,
hazmat
response, just and seeing these guys in action. I've been there when people are hurt, people are possibly going to die. It is something to behold.
They just, the way they jump into action.
It's like a muscle
and
memory.
Stay so calm and collected and just keep it together. And it's almost like they thrive in that intense stress. I mean, it's just amazing. And those people really do deserve higher pay. So much appreciation from the rest of us. Who count on them.
I agree, because when everyone's losing their mind, they're the one person that's literally or running away from danger. They're running toward it.
Okay, Dylan, let's talk a little bit about Gina Grant. So 14-year-old Gina was considered a standout student. She was called the, quote, nicest girl by friends and teachers, a cheerleader, a star tennis player. Gina was the first female student council president elected at Lexington Middle School and was an honor student.
Okay, so she's doing a damn thing.
With an IQ of 150, Gina earned high marks in advanced classes. She was believed by students to be, very popular. I mean, she was like beloved. Everyone liked her. Like there was, during interviews, newspaper interviews, reporters, just about everyone they spoke with liked her.
Right. Just like me. Everybody likes me. No, I think we all remember these people. You may have been that person. And a lot of times they're not aware when you are that person, how much people love you and how you impact people's lives on a daily basis or whatever. But I think we remember people like that when we went to school and stuff.
I was not that.
I was not that.
I was not that student.
I was an introverted person dealing with stuff. No, I have to say.
You were like a class clown, though.
Well, I was that, to a degree. But I'm much more, flamboyant's not the word, but more boisterous.
Right. I'm you've come out of your shell.
I'm quite different in my adult life than I was, especially as a kid or a young person. And you've actually helped me blossom, Heather. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I was a weird kid.
You're the weird adult.
I know. I was a weird kid, I dressed weird and I got picked on and I was like a theater kid.
So you were all the weird things.
So I was just, I was like a dork. I was I would get like shoved into lockers and stuff.
Like literally like in an 80s movie.
Yeah.
People would walk past and just shove you hard into the...
Yeah, and I used to...
What the hell,
dude? So, I mean, we all know I grew up in, a small, rural kind of town, country. A lot of people who proudly called themselves rednecks, though by definition they really weren't rednecks. But they, they were just always like, you weirdo, and like wanted to bully me because I dressed differently or looked different. And I never understood that because I thought, why do you care?
Like, why do you care what I'm wearing?
Like, why do you care, if I want to wear, like, what is it? Why do you care? I just never understood that. And also it was the 90s and I thought I looked pretty hip.
Well, you're doing what?
But I was getting bullied by girls who had like big hair, like 80s hair, like hair that had been out of style for like 10 years. Like they were a decade behind, wearing like acid wash jeans and tight rolling them with like slouch socks and Keds.
Bro,
and it's like 1996.
What?
And them telling me like, you're weird. And I'm like, well, you're out of style.
So what?
I fit in anywhere, any major city I go to, I fit in. You're the one dressed like you just left the Breakfast Club. Like, why are you picking on me?
So they're kind of stuck in their mom's style. Big hair. Wait.
I called it Camaro hair, but these girls, they all had perms and like big bangs. I can think of this one girl who used to bully me a lot. And that chick had, if you took a ruler, her bangs had to stick up about 8 inches on the top of her head. And she sprayed them. I mean, and they like looked crusty from the hairspray, and they stood straight up. And then she had this long permed hair, and she would spray just the sides out, like just above the ears.
Gosh.
And it was so bad out of style. And that bitch bullied me so much, and her with that fucking hair. And you know what? I seen her when I went to my 10-year reunion.
Hey, where's your bangs at, bitch?
She was basically still wearing that fucking hair.
Stop it.
Now, she didn't have the bangs, but she still had that fucking perm.
She had the perm and the flares on the side?
Kinda, yeah.
Oh, gosh. See, that's the thing. It's just... So you were doing like a grungy... what were you doing, Darren? I want to know. I think...
Okay, I was like obsessed with vintage and thrift store clothes, right?
So this is 90s,
right?
Mid-90s.
I loved vintage, and I had a ton, because my mother hated it, a bunch of like polyester, like 70s
what
clothes.
Yeah,
like dresses and shit. And I wore them with like Doc Martens And I had like little baby doll dresses with Doc Martens, and I wore a lot of flannel and like band t-shirts. I mean, I didn't think it was weird, but these girls hated me.
Wait, so you're
because I was kind of what I thought was fashionable.
So you're mixing vintage 70-ish or very early 80s with grunge.
Yeah.
Dude, that's cool. I like it.
Yeah, I thought I had great style back then.
But you should have been tight rolling your acid wash with some slouch socks and some Keds.
And like a silk shirt.
Oh, don't you? Hey, you don't.
Yeah, well, you know what? That silk shirt was cool in like 92 or 93, but by 96, people weren't wearing that shit, but these girls were.
You know, the silk shirts came and went very fast.
Oh, they did.
It was very fast. I mean, this is a literal definition of fast fashion.
Look, I got to tell you one more thing.
Gosh, I wish I had
that girl who bullied me with that big hair.
Yeah.
I was on the yearbook staff, and we had a section that was like what, your favorite music or what people were listening to was kind of like a yearbook page. And I remember, you would go around and ask people, and you'd have like their picture with like their favorite band. You know who this bitch's favorite band was?
Rat.
Jackal. Close.
I was close.
Dude, I like Rat.
I like Rat and Jackal.
Round and round.
Chainsaw. But you shouldn't go around bullying people if that's going to be your favorite.
If Jackal is going to be your favorite band, you shouldn't be making fun of other people.
Well, no.
Let's be honest.
It's like you said, though. Why do you care? I've never concerned myself.
With bullies, I just never understand, like, why do you care? But then I realized they're probably just jealous of me.
Her bangs was talked her into doing it.
She was just jealous.
Her bangs are
She was
sentient.
jealous of my bell bottoms.
Yeah, I
she
guess.
wished she had a leisure suit. And I fucking did. I had a leisure suit.
You had a full-on leisure suit?
Yeah, it was like a lady's. And I had that thing for years. And I have a photo in it where I'm dressed as like a grandma zombie.
Yeah.
In that leisure suit.
Yes.
I wore it to like this zombie pub crawl thing.
Yeah.
And I dressed like a 70s like grandma, and I had an ascot and shit.
Dude.
And I wore I had that leisure suit in high school, and I had it when I was like in my 30s. I had it for years.
That's admirable,
I know.
Heather. I mean, seriously.
I got too fat for all my vintage clothes.
Well.
You have to be like a size 0 to wear that stuff.
Yeah, everybody was small
Everybody
back then.
was very thin. Okay, back to our story. Enough about me. Let's talk about me. Okay, so
Stupid.
Well, I'm just saying I was not Gina, and you weren't Gina, so we can't relate.
No.
But I'm sure a lot of our listeners were cool kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so around 2 a.m., Gina gave her first statements to investigators. The girl was cool, collected, and confident as she shared her version of events, including that she'd been on the telephone with her boyfriend, 16-year-old Jack Hook, for around 20 minutes when her mother, Dorothy Mayfield, began screaming at Gina. And so she's saying this was maybe like around 9:30. She's on the phone with her boyfriend, and her mom starts screaming at her.
Okay. Well, that happens.
Dorothy, according to Gina, was drunk. A toxicology report will later relay that Dot's blood alcohol level was at 30%. 37% is considered fatal.
Damn.
Yeah.
So if you put that in like the breathalyzer, she's like a 2-something or something.
It was like 0.3.
0.3?
Something. Yeah, what? So she was actually like about 3 times past the legal limit for driving.
Wow. So she is literally, if her tolerance hadn't been built up, she would be dead already. Like alcohol or sick from alcohol poisoning.
Yes.
So, okay, so that definitely does back up her, Gina saying that she was very intoxicated. Okay.
When Gina hung up the phone with her boyfriend, Dot Mayfield told her daughter they needed to have it out now. Dot was going to, quote, beat her butt as she unbuttoned her clothing. She told Gina she didn't want to mess up her $300 suit.
Well, so having it out while you're very intoxicated is always a good idea. I mean, I've learned that in my life.
Yeah.
Having very serious or, very confrontational situations happen while you're very intoxicated. Being drunk helps.
Well, who tells their 14-year-old child, like, we're going to have this out and start
disrobing so you don't get blood on my clothes?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Okay.
She took off her rings and watch as well. Fearing Dorothy was going to attack Gina, she started down the stairs, but was grabbed by her mother. Dorothy and Gina struggled, which caused the girl to hit her head. She said Dot continued hitting her in the back and shoulders and slapped her through the face a few times.
Okay, but we do have to take into account this is just her account of the story.
Right.
And that her mom's not here to give her side of it. So I have to remember that for myself.
At some point, Gina said her mother fell down the carpeted staircase, then produced a knife, terrifying the girl. She thought her mother was going to kill her when Dot said, quote, "One of us has to go."
Okay.
Detective Phillips did not believe Gina's story. In his years of investigating crime scenes, he knew falling down carpeted stairs would not produce the kind of lacerations that Dot Mayfield had on her head. The knife had also been staked into the woman's throat post-mortem.
Oh. Damn. I guess so. I guess maybe there's very little blood around the wound is what would lead you to believe that.
After being confronted with the evidence discovered in Gina's closet, remember they found the bloody candlestick, the jacket, towels. Gina gave a second statement which expounded upon the first, but with more violent details. So she's kind of sticking to her story, but the second time she's adding more violence.
She's embellishing it to a degree.
Then, during a third statement, the girl told Detective Phillips she may have grabbed a crystal candlestick and hit her mother over the head with it.
Oh, you mean the one we just told you we found in your closet covered in blood in a bag?
Yes.
With bloody clothes?
That would be the one.
That's the one.
That's the one, Dylan.
Now
it's not the other one. That's the one.
You left that detail out earlier.
The seasoned detective watches the girl as her demeanor just remains cool as a cucumber. With dry eyes, she recounts the narrative, adjusting it to fit new information that's presented to her.
Okay.
The detective will later say if he had not seen the crime scene, he would have believed her wholeheartedly. She was quite convincing.
Oh, wow.
The only time Gina Grant cried or showed emotion was when he informed the girl she would not be going home that morning because she was being charged with murder.
So
she thought she was going to go home. She kept asking, "When can I leave?"
And her being cool as a cucumber, like, because I mean, now, you know, hey, people have been drunk and gotten in fights or one side or the other on drugs or anything, and it turning into something kind of like this seems pretty brutal, and you have to tell it really did go down in the heat of the moment, whatever. But I would imagine that very seldom would someone recount that calmly without being emotional. You know, most people are going to be emotional about this. I mean, that's their mom. Even if they were a hard ass or any of that, or they didn't like what they were trying to make them do or say, you usually don't want to bludgeon and stab your mother to death.
You don't? Oh.
Usually.
Oops. So
you're stupid, dude.
I've got dreams. Dreams to remember, Dylan. Okay. So in the days... That's a joke. Or is it?
It's a shout out to all our ops.
Yeah. Who are so desperate to know where we are.
Hey, you know where we are? Where you ain't, bitch.
Right. Cheers.
Yeah.
In the days following the heinous patricide, details of the Golden Girl's life unfolded. 3 years earlier, when Gina was 11 years old, her father, Charles Grant, a civil engineer, had passed away after a brutal battle with lung cancer. Dorothy, who was an executive assistant in the personnel department at North Carolina National Bank, was an alcoholic. She had started drinking before her husband had passed away. Gina, as a child, cared for her dying father after school until Dot came home from work. Sometimes Dot didn't come home at all, leaving Gina and Dana to assume the caregiving responsibilities for their father.
Damn, that's a tall order.
So from the time Gina's like 8 years old, 9, I mean, for several years, up until she's 11, She's a little girl. She is being a caregiver for her father.
That's a messed up situation.
Eddie Walker, who had been assistant principal at Lexington Middle School, formed a special bond with Gina. He said, quote, "She saw things no child should see." He also told reporters that Dot was running around with other men while her husband was at home dying, which was very difficult for Gina.
God, so, I mean, in a situation like that, you're forced to mature and grow up very quickly. You're doing things that adults should be doing. And it's just really messed up. I mean, I think it's really messed up. And I see, I was always way more mature than people my age. I think you were as well.
Well, that's because we grew up in chaos.
Well, yeah. But, and I was just like, whatever. But at the same time, I was jealous, that they got to maybe be a kid longer than I did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was very envious of my friends.
Yeah.
And my peers who appeared to have a normal life. I say normal, but
Yeah, and nothing's perfect, but when you do live in chaos or around chaos, it is, and it is it's very amazing what you can get used to, if you will. But yeah, and you see these other kids, and they're just like, "Shit, is that the way it's supposed to be?" Because that seems pretty cool.
Wow, your parents haven't screamed or gotten into a fist fight or anything this whole weekend? Wow. Yeah. No one's drunk. Nobody threatened to burn the house down.
It's like a holiday.
Your mom baked brownies? Whoa. Will you adopt me, please?
Can I just stay here forever?
I wish.
But look, you just came to spend the Saturday night. We need you to go home now. But I've been trying to reach your parents, and they won't come get you.
Yes.
Back to the story.
They hung up and said they didn't want the extended warranty for their car. We're so similar.
Oh, this is sweet. It's making me feel warm and fuzzy inside. Wait, that's the soup and bread.
Dot's brother, Curtis Dixon, a CPA, a certified public accountant.
Yeah.
Not a certified public asshole.
Yeah. I wondered about that for years.
He said they had a terrible childhood. He said, quote, "This family is not dysfunctional, it's non-functional."
Oh, wow. I like that. I think that could be something that's on a poster in a therapist's office.
He recalled the kind of verbal and mental abuse the Grant girls were subjected to, and how it was similar to the abuse they, meaning he and his sister Dorothy, had endured as children. Samuel Dixon, their father, was a small farmer who had endured the Great Depression. He hoarded money and refused to spend any on his 6 children. Curtis recalled how he and his siblings were sent to school in flour sacks because their father refused to buy them clothes. You okay over there?
Sorry. Literal flour sacks? Like burlap?
Oh, dude, my Nana...
This is like a flour sack dress, right? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, my Nana used to... They was poor. But the thing is,
We're poor, ain't we?
Well, yeah, but the thing, I guess, when you're pouring Appalachians, so is everybody else.
Yeah.
So you ain't the only kid in school wearing a flour sack.
No, maybe your flour sack's newer than theirs. And then, that's all it takes for you to be the bully now. Your flour sacks from last year, there's flour sacks from 2 years ago.
You got a name brand flour sack. I got the generic.
Yeah, yours says made in the USA on it.
Samuel Dixon was filled with emotional violence, lashing out at the children whom he called, quote, lazy, stupid, and no good. He was just downright mean.
Those ne'er-do-wells.
His greatest pleasure seemed to be derived from cutting the family down. Dot was vicious like her father, according to Curtis, and his nieces, meaning Gina and Dana, faced the same harassment and ridicule too. He understood why Gina had murdered her mother and said the same thoughts had plagued his mind as a young person.
Oh, wow. So you're kind of getting a little bit of what would you say, support for her version of the story, or a correlation of sorts?
Well,
is that the right word?
Yeah. Her uncle is sympathize. He's got a lot of empathy for her.
So basically he's saying, I've thought about killing her too because she was a lot.
Well, no, he was talking about how he wanted to kill his own
his
okay. father.
Oh, I see.
And that Dot was just like their dad.
Oh, okay.
And treated her daughters the way she had been treated growing up.
Generational trauma that gets passed along the line.
So he was saying, I, fantasized about killing my dad. And so I can understand why Gina did this.
I like how you have to break things down in very simple terms for me sometimes. And I know some people out there are probably like, this fucking guy. But I'm sitting here doing my best to listen and follow what you're saying. I promise
know.
you.
You're off like looking over there and moving around in your seat. And it's just, you've got to get some medication, bud.
Well, and that vent's blowing up my shorts. And I got to say, it's cold. But I'm trying my best not to be distracted. I promise you, I love doing this with you.
Keep your little horse in the barn.
Golly, Bob, he's not coming out right now.
I was going to say, he ain't coming out of that barn. Now, before the murder, 2 prominent adults in Gina's life had withdrawn. Eddie Walker, he was the principal that she had kind of latched on to, bonded with.
Right.
He was given a promotion and moved to another school to become principal. Norma Brown, who had known Gina since she was a toddler, was dealing with a divorce and didn't have time to focus on the girl anymore. Norma Brown had been Gina's nursery school teacher, and she had a special bond with the girl. She hired Gina to help as an aide during the summer after 8th grade. Norma said Dot was not one to drink in bars, but preferred drinking at home, that rum was her liquor of choice, with rum runners being her favorite drink.
You know what's in that?
A rum runner?
Yeah.
Rum?
No, you don't. That's fine. I just thought you might know. You know stuff.
Yeah, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
It's been a minute since I bartended.
So, rum.
It's got juice and stuff. I know that.
I might have to have a rum runner. It sounds nice. I like rum. Just saying. So she's not so much. See, that's not a good sign. She's not going out. She's not socializing and drinking and having fun with friends. She's sitting at home drinking by herself. And that's never a good thing.
To sit at home and drink by yourself?
No.
You would know.
I would know.
So it's light rum, darker rum, banana liqueur, blackberry liqueur, pineapple juice, lime juice, grenadine.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, that sounds good.
I mean, I've had a rum runner before.
Did you like it?
I've had rum runners before. I love rum, so.
I've had some rum and then ran.
I like fruity tropical drinks.
Dude, if I have a drink, I'm going to have that. Okay.
So others say Dot didn't just drink at home, but rather drank around the clock, and that she was a functioning alcoholic.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's someone who does like that. That's what they're always typically going to be. A functional alcoholic who drinks almost constantly, right? Drink till they go to sleep, wake up, drink again. They drink when other people aren't drinking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
they're always having the drink.
She maintained a job, but I guess was like drinking at lunch.
Yeah.
Maybe slipping a little sip, a little nip here and there during the work
Before work,
day.
after work, directly after. As soon as you get home, you're going to do it all evening until you lay down and get up and do it all again. And that's so hard on your body.
I was going to say, just talking about that gives me a headache.
I can't do it anymore. I'm glad that I've finally come to some sort of a terms with my own drinking. I've done a lot better, and I feel a lot better for it because it's just, gosh, man.
No, you've commented that since you've been sober.
Yeah, off of the alcohol.
How you feel completely different, and that you didn't realize how much it was like wrecking your mood and your body.
Yeah. And bouts of depression are almost non-existent now. Obviously, it's a depressant. And that's the vicious cycle because you have feels and you don't want to have those feels for whatever reason. So you drink something to numb you out. But then that is a depressant, which makes you, spiral even more down into that depression tube. It doesn't help your feels. It only covers them up for the moment. And the main thing for me is a clarity of mind. And our listeners may not believe it. But I can actually remember.
Sometimes you can remember things.
I can remember stuff.
It's crazy.
I can remember stuff. Like I can look at, and this may sound dumb, but I can look at, 3 or 4 different sets of numbers and remember them for a minute because I couldn't do that at all a year ago. So I don't know. You can blame it on the rain if you want. You know what I'm saying?
I will never blame it on the rain.
I'm bringing that phrase back.
Girl, it's true.
I watched a really good documentary about Milli Vanilli.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
So back to our story. In we have a Milli Vanilli record. We have them on vinyl. Okay. So in 1987, after Charles' death, Dorothy checked herself into Charters River Hospital for alcohol addiction. She was advanced $843.50 from her husband's estate, which was still in probate, to cover the cost of treatment. However, the short stint in rehab didn't help her alcoholism. If anything, Dot's drinking got worse because she went to rehab, stayed a very short,
right,
like 3 days or something.
Yeah.
And you can't go to rehab for just a few days. It takes, people I think who truly go to a rehab program and battle their addiction, they spend months or even, year or years in treatment.
Well, they spend months getting started, and then you're going to continue your treatment for the rest of your life. Honestly.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Samuel Dixon, Dot's father, admitted his daughter had a drinking problem and was likely an alcoholic, but he didn't see her very often. Not long after her father's death, Gina woke up alone in the house. She found one of her mother's older male companions deceased.
What the hell?
Gina was left to figure out what to do about this stranger's body.
So
she's a little girl.
It's some random dude, just a random dude, basically.
Her dad dies when she's 11, so she's 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
And she wakes up and finds this guy dead and there's no one home. So she's like, got to figure it out.
I don't even know what to say to that.
For whatever reason, Dot seemed to focus her anger solely on Gina. She blamed the girl for her father's death. Dot wouldn't allow Gina to keep any photographs of her dad in the house. Now, Dylan, this makes no sense. She's a child. How is she possibly responsible for her dad being diagnosed with cancer and then dying? That makes no sense.
No, even if she was an adult, just that thought process alone, it doesn't add up for me.
And then...
No, it's nobody's fault that someone got cancer, dude.
Not allowing this little girl to have a photograph of her dad that she adored in the house.
See, that's almost a conflicting thought because for in one instance, on one hand, you're blaming her almost for the loss of him, like you would prefer he be there, but then you won't allow a picture to be up. I don't get it. You're mad at her because he's gone for some weird reason, but you also don't want to see a picture of him. It's just to fuck with her. It's just to hurt her. And you often see this with people in these circumstances. They will key on that one person. Is like catches all their anger and whatever. And I've never understood that.
Lucky me, I was an only child, so I got it. I got it double.
I don't know if it's because that person, that kid or whatever, reminds them of someone or something like that. I don't know what it is, but every time I've ever seen this in my life, I just don't understand.
I don't get it either. It makes no sense.
And adults that blame kids for anything, let alone big stuff, well beyond a kid's control. I've never understood that either.
Dot would get drunk, fly into a rage, and wake Gina up in the middle of the night to yell at her. Sometimes Dot would mix alcohol with Xanax, which Gina and Dana both said was not good.
No, it's not good, bud.
When she did this, she would threaten to kill Gina. Finally, Dana and Gina found a gun hidden under Dot's mattress, and the girls disposed of it out of fear. They took the gun and hid it from their mother.
With a drug,
and removed it from the house.
Alcohol's bad enough. It's such a terror. gosh, alcohol is so bad. I mean, it really, people that have a problem with it, it puts them in the state, and it makes them so mean. It's just a special kind of meanness that comes from a drunk like that. And then you take something like the cocktail of Xanax, which I think Xanax by itself is scary. People that abuse it, because they're in like this. It's like they're not even there. It's like they're on autopilot. And when you see someone doing like that, doing things, not remembering it at all, cooking.
Yeah, they're like in a stupor.
They're in a stupor, but they're not laying down, because the addict, what they do is they fight that. Someone who doesn't have addiction issues takes a Xanax or something, they relax, they go to sleep typically. But then you take an addict, they're going to fight that going to sleep part, because they want to feel the high, if you will. And it's just, it's a mess. It really is. So mixing those two things together, Jesus, that's just a terrible cocktail.
Christy Harrelson, Gina's best friend, recalled that Dot was always drunk and yelling even in front of Gina's friends, which, from the sounds of it, Dylan, I think Christy was about the only friend Gina ever had over. Because Gina's other friends, Courtney and Valerie, said Gina had never invited them to her house.
Because she's embarrassed.
Christy said, quote, she really didn't think of her mother as a parent. It was more like her mother was the child, a baby, just a drunk idiot. Christy's mother, Eileen Harrelson, took Gina in as a bit of a surrogate mother. She became Gina's surrogate mother. Dot was usually too drunk to perform basic tasks like cooking or cleaning, so Gina often spent weeknights and weekends with the Harrelson family. Gina would show up at their home with unexplained injuries such as a black eye. Once Gina was on crutches with a torn ankle ligament, which she would later admit had been caused by her mother. Like her mom had pushed her down and the girl had twisted her ankle and
these
torn
are
a ligament.
Obvious signs of abuse. I mean, there's no way around it.
Dot would leave bruises on the girl for slights such as failing to wax the floor after she had mopped it.
Okay, but you're damn laid up drunk. You didn't even clean. At least I mopped.
Once Dot flew into a violent fit after learning Gina had used the last of the family's milk.
I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just kind of, I didn't grow up with this type of abuse, but this is kind of, I don't know. It makes me think of things, I guess.
I understand. Over Labor Day weekend, while water skiing with the Harrelsons at Lake Murray, Gina confided in her friend Christy that things at home were not okay. She shared that her mother was a violent drunk and Gina feared for her life. When Christy told Eileen this, she didn't know what to do, so she called the Lexington County Sheriff's Office and spoke with a deputy named Mary Van de Wedge. The deputy explained that nothing could be done unless Dot actually did something violent. She could take a report, but then Dot would be able to access who had placed the phone call. And since Eileen figured their home was Gina's only safe space, she didn't want Dot to become irate and prevent Gina from staying over at their house.
Gosh, what a position to be in, you know? She's seeking help of some sort for this poor kid, but then she's afraid to reach out for the help because she is glad that she can come over and at least stay at their house and have dinner, have a hot dinner. What the hell?
No formal complaint was filed. However, Mary Van de Wedge remembered the conversation with Eileen Harrelson. However, Sheriff Metz of the Lexington Sheriff's Office refuted that any such call was ever made. He believed Gina Grant was a cold, manipulative sociopath who premeditated her mother's murder.
Oh.
So even though his former deputy is saying, I took that call, I remember, I had this conversation, the sheriff is telling the press, nope, never happened.
That's not good. Well, that's not a good sign right there, because that's we know as true crime fans, us and our listeners, that when you are cherry picking information and excluding things that doesn't support your version of it, it's a very unhealthy place to be at in an investigation.
And I think you're going to see a little bit of that.
How in the hell his own deputy is saying, yeah, I remember that. Sure did. It went down just like that. How do you do that?
I don't know.
That's not being a very good leader. And the sheriff is a leader and should be a good leader. That should be grounds for you being removed, honestly.
Police theorized that Dot's murder was less about abuse and alcoholism and more about Gina's passionate love affair with a 16-year-old boy named Jack Hook, a JV football player.
Jack Hook?
Yes.
What an awesome name.
Gina and Jack had been dating for a year. He was a below-average student who had been in trouble with the law for petty theft and vandalism. He had been held back after flunking classes, and that's how Gina kind of had come to meet him, because he's 2 years older than she is. Dot disapproved of Jack Hook. She and Gina were always fighting about the relationship.
Well, and a parent has the right to disapprove for whatever reason of someone that their child is dating or going to potentially date. But I'm sorry, you're not being a very good parent in all other respects. I mean, which this has been corroborated by multiple other people.
Yes.
That something is going on. There's something wrong with the household. So we can say that you're not being a very good parent.
Well, you also have to look at it like, is Dot trying to protect her daughter, or is it more about just trying to keep her daughter from being with someone, from being happy, from having a boyfriend? Because it sounds like this mother resents her child
for some reason
and doesn't like her.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is, I've never understood. I've been mad at my kids, but I don't resent my kids. You know, I may know I might have wanted my life to go a little bit differently, or, you know, things that happen maybe later or not at all. But I'm not going to hold that against my kids. That's not their damn fault. You know what I'm saying?
Well, as a child who has a mother that hates me for whatever reason, it's difficult to constantly be blamed for your parents' failings.
Well, if you say stuff to kids like, my life is shit because I had you.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that even mean?
Well, yeah, because
the kid,
I didn't ask to be born.
The embryo didn't want any part of this, because if I'd had a choice, I would have made different choices as well.
Yeah.
I would have had different parents.
I wish you would have just put me up for adoption.
I wish you'd put me up. I would have took my chances with the foster care system, you son of a bitch. I've never understood. And I just think it's a sign of deep-seated insecurities.
You've seen it in action. You know.
Oh, no.
You experienced it.
And an emotional...
Having been married to me.
An emotional immaturity in these adults that can't deal with their own choices. And people that are always looking... Because, look, I've fucked myself many times. I know that could be cut out and make it sound weird. But I've screwed myself.
We know, Dylan. Look, we don't need to know what you do when you're alone.
Look, listen. I have been my own worst enemy.
Okay, that's a better way of phrasing it.
Many, many times. It was me that did it. But it was nobody else's fault but mine.
Right, I take accountability for the bad choices that I've made that have led me, where I am today.
Whoa, but you're married to me.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding.
When I look back and think, oh man, if I hadn't done this, I could have done this, right?
Right.
But it's like, well, you're the dumbass who did that.
Right.
Like, you're the one that made that decision.
Even if someone was counseling me to make or not make this decision, I took their advice. I would still hold myself accountable over that other person.
Well, yeah.
So I've never understood people that want to blame others for anything that's going on in their life.
I don't know.
Well,
Gina had twice run away from home and had been caught both times. One time, Gina, fearing Dot's wrath, concocted a story about being kidnapped by, quote, tall, fat, smelly man.
What?
I was like, my husband kidnapped her?
Tall, fat, smelly man. That is one of the best bushy-haired basic descriptions I've ever heard in my life. Because what if the cops are really out there, like, harassing all the tall,
I'm going to
smelly men?
need to smell your armpits, sir.
Like, hey, big boy, get over here.
Let me sniff you.
Let me check.
What do you smell like?
He smells fresh. It ain't him. He ain't the one.
Okay, this guy is, he's pungent, and my olfactory senses are, they're tickling right now.
Look, he was fat and he was smelly, but he wasn't all that tall. He wasn't.
Yeah, I guess it couldn't be you. Well, you're not fat anymore.
Well, hold on a second. And I smell good.
Right now.
No, I always smell good. You said even after I work hard, you'd be like, how do you still smell good?
Not when you was at the mill.
Oh, well, that's mill funk.
Gosh.
Look, you can't fight history, baby.
You would like stink up the whole house with your smelly feet.
Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. No. Rest in peace, not Teen Machine.
I know it's been a whole year.
It's been a whole year, and a couple of my partners are people I worked with, friends. I would consider them friends. They weren't just work associates. It reminded me that it's been a year, almost officially a year. June 9th was officially a year when I was let go, and they shut us down, turned the old girl off.
Poor Dylan.
Just Americana, the history. Kind of weird.
Well, this tall, fat, smelly man, according to Gina, had forced her into his Toyota car and made her drive around all night.
Smelling him.
Gina filed a police report, but later admitted she was lying and the investigation was dropped.
So, but, I mean, look, we're being goofy, but she's going through a lot. She's making up entire stories.
Well, she runs away from home, and then when she gets caught, she's fearing, she's afraid of her mom.
Exactly.
So she makes up a story to try to evade Dorothy's wrath instead of just saying, no, I ran away.
I ran away for whatever reason.
Because I don't want to be at home with you.
Or I want to go do this. Now, running away can be a sign of a terrible home life, but it can also be a sign of a kid who don't want to listen.
Oh, yeah, well,
we
know what that's like, too.
No, but I mean, I'm being serious. Just, some people say, well,
serious as well.
That totally supports, the allegations of abuse and things like that. But I would say you have to remember sometimes kids just don't want to do what they're told, and they'll do something. They
sneak out. They run off with a boy.
Yeah.
They want to go to a party.
Yeah.
They leave without permission.
I was too lazy to sneak out.
I was too afraid to
I didn't want to.
I was afraid.
I didn't even want to, bro. My sister was acting a fool.
Well, I was afraid of my mother. And also, I was afraid to sneak out because I've always been paranoid. And I would think of all the horrible
bad things that could happen.
Yeah, like, oh gosh, if I sneak out or leave, like Ted Bundy could pick me up.
Right.
I
could get sex trafficked. Of course, we didn't use that term back then.
No, we didn't.
It was just murder.
I felt like, I could get kidnapped.
Right.
And killed. I watched a lot of true crime even back then.
Oh, gosh.
I was watching Forensic Files back then.
Oh, man. That's the shit.
American Justice. Okay, so Jack Hook had been sneaking into the house, spending nights in Gina's bedroom during the week. He would drive a red Corvette belonging to his father, Fred, over to her house and park outside. Gina, they had a signal, and she would signal him, Dylan. If she came outside and shouted, "You stupid dog," at the family pet, it was clear for Jack to come in, meaning that Dorothy had passed out.
Dog's over there not even barking like, what the hell did I do?
If Gina said, quote, "Go get your bone," it meant he couldn't sleep over and needed to leave.
Oh, so it means that Dorothy's on one and she's not going to sleep right now.
Yes. During the interrogation, Gina made no effort to hide the fact that her mother despised Jack Hook. Alarm bells went off for detectives who suspected that Hook might have been involved as well in the murder. A few hours after the murder, detectives showed up at Hook's house on Maple Road to interview him. Jack denied being with Gina the previous evening. He told investigators he'd been on the phone with Gina like around 9:30 that evening, and he had overheard Dorothy ranting in the background. When Gina hung up, he tried to call her back multiple times but got no answer. However, he did not go to the house.
And his father, Captain Hook, was very concerned when the police showed up to question his son.
Yar.
Yes, sir. I had to work it in.
Days later, Jack Hook was fingerprinted by law enforcement. It was determined his prints were a match to those found on the knife in Dot's throat.
What?
Hook explained this by saying he was often in the house, and a few days before the murder, he had been throwing knives at a tree on the property.
Yeah, so I just went in the kitchen, got all the knives, and I was out there throwing them at a tree. And I'm also known to make a really good tomato sandwich. And how else am I supposed to thinly slice my heirloom tomatoes, sir? Your move next.
It was a Mr. Stripey, by the way.
Gosh, what's wrong?
I'm going to throw a beefsteak tomato at you.
I like throwing knives, too. But
I typically throw them at your head, not the tree.
how long's your fingerprints going to stay on this damn knife, dude? I mean, is it never washed?
Well, it sounds like Dorothy doesn't wash the dishes, so maybe not.
I would be very concerned if I'm Jack Hook and they come and tell me my fingerprints are on the knife protruding from a dead woman's neck.
Look, Dylan, people, they have different priorities and different worries.
And that's why you get throwing stars from the flea market, and that's what you throw at trees.
Law enforcement believed Gina had called Jack over to help clean up the crime scene, that he had stabbed Dot in the throat. Someone had placed her hand on the knife in an effort to make it appear as though she had, stabbed herself in the throat.
Oh, gosh. That's like shooting someone 6 times and then putting the gun in their hand.
Jack was charged as an accessory to the murder and held in the juvenile wing of the Lexington County Jail. When combing the crime scene, investigators found scraps of clothing in the kitchen. Blood was spattered on the refrigerator and kitchen table, yet no other large amounts of blood were found anywhere else in the kitchen, as if someone had cleaned up the crime scene. There were also track marks through the blood on the floor, which indicated that Dot's body had been dragged into the dining room.
Oh my gosh, I just thought about the fact, remember you kept describing dried blood everywhere. So this would actually line up with their theory if she took the time to call Mr. Hook over there and they rearranged or changed the scene.
He's on the phone with her at 9:30.
Right.
And she's claiming they got into a fight when she was on the phone with him.
Right.
And her sister does not get home until midnight.
Yeah.
And that's a good 2.5 hours.
That's a long time.
That someone could have helped clean up this crime scene. And that seems to be what investigators are banking on.
Well, I mean, again, in the heat of the moment, things went terribly awry. You don't usually wait to get help, right? You're hysterically screaming, "Someone help me! Oh my God, what have I done?" Blah blah blah. You don't. Usually, all the blood's not dried. I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's still fresh. It's still, things happen very quickly. And, I mean, I thought that was odd when you started your story. And I got to say, I kind of appreciate the way you started out. It's like we were in the moment, and then we worked backwards from that. I like that.
Detectives firmly believed that Gina had helped cleaning up this mess and that Jack Hook was the culprit. Eileen Harrelson recalled that 2 months before the murder, Dot Mayfield had nearly burned down the family home. She had passed out drunk, scattering liquor bottles all around the house. So that was a detail that I thought I would add in there. It was on October 17th of 1990 that Gina informed police she wanted to make another statement, this time blaming Jack Hook for the murder. Now, according to Gina, Jack had come into the house while she was fighting with her mother. Dot was holding a knife up to Gina's face. That's when Jack grabbed the candlestick and started hitting Dot with it. Gina was stunned and turned away. She then heard Jack saying, quote, "Oh my God, oh my God." When asked if Jack stabbed Dot too, Gina said, quote, "I guess so."
Look, I know those are the 4 stories versions I told you. Now it's time for me to tell you the truth. now that I've thought about it. And you guys have kind of told me what you think's happened. Here's my newest version of the story. Now, what do you think when someone's version of events keeps changing? Because I got to imagine these are flashbulb memories.
Well, the truth is, this version almost makes more sense to
Really?
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess all the evidence that they've gathered to this point, yeah, I guess I see what you're saying.
Well, that she was fighting with her mom.
Right.
He hears this. He comes over as he's like entering the home, sees Gina and her mom struggling or whatever.
He's trying to protect her.
And he grabs this candlestick and starts hitting Dorothy, possibly kills her. And then they freak out. They have to clean up the crime scene.
Oh, and come up with, we got to tell him something. It'll be better if you say you did it.
And maybe that's how she was able to be so cool, calm, and collected.
Because they thought about their story.
Throughout the interview, because she didn't actually kill her mom.
Ah, so she was almost removed from the moment.
Because she was covering her eyes.
Yeah.
She was looking away.
Huh.
That version makes more sense in my tiny little brain.
Damn, girl. You're kind of right.
Anyway, moving along. We'll be able to talk more about this in a minute. When Detective Phillips asked her if she was simply telling the story to get out of jail, Gina said, quote, "You just have to decide who to believe, I guess."
Gina's like the queen of the clapback.
Sheila Hook was in disbelief. Now, this is Jack's mother. She had spoken to Gina in jail on the phone several times. Gina had assured her that Jack was innocent. When Sheila heard this news, Jack's lawyer recommended that Sheila start recording the phone calls with Gina.
Oh, okay.
Because obviously she's changing her story. She's telling you one thing, telling the police another thing.
You know, that would also kind of back up or kind of explain why she's had multiple versions. Because now that if indeed this is the truth, the other ones were not true, and that's why it kept changing.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So now you're seeing it from my point of view.
Oh, I see it, girl. What
Okay.
you said sounded smart, so I'm going to agree with it.
Well, during the phone calls, once Sheila does start recording these phone calls, Gina is composed. Sometimes she says Jack was not involved. At other times, Gina tells Sheila there was a third party involved. And at times, she's insisting that it was Jack and saying then she couldn't remember anything about the night.
So you tell me the tall, fat, smelly man did it with one arm?
Well, she's really just saying, like, well, there was someone else there.
Right.
But not directly accusing or saying that it was her son.
Oh, okay.
Gina,
I thought you meant a third party.
Well, Gina's just saying, someone else was there, but not directly saying it was your son.
I thought you were saying she was saying her, Jack, and someone else. But no, she's just saying someone else vaguely, but not directly saying Jack. I got what you're saying.
The whole time, Sheriff Metz is convinced that Gina Grant is a sociopath with no conscience, despite the fact that she was suffering chronic nightmares while she was in custody that required sedation.
Damn. You know, some people could argue this type of abuse she was suffering could create a sociopath.
Well, there's that also.
Uh-oh.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Hello. Damn, son, I got my little cap on now.
Well, here we go. More to your point. It is known that many juveniles will not discuss abuse that is happening at home. They keep it quiet. They don't talk about it. You know better than to talk about it.
Right. Well, you have embarrassment. You have all that mixed with, you know, the fear of the person who's abusing you being outed. And then serving some type of retribution on you.
And when they snap, it's often overkill. In these cases.
Very, very true. Very good point.
Then they seem detached from their emotions, which appears to make them callous. But what it is that these juveniles who've suffered this kind of trauma, abuse, emotional, physical abuse, whatever, they compartmentalize their emotions. And so when they're talking about it, they can seem very like to the point and direct. And others are like, wow, this is a psychopath. But it's just because it's how they've dealt with it for so long.
Right. It's a defense mechanism they've developed during the abuse.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean they're not having those feelings. They're able to actually kind of deal with different parts of their brain or emotions at once. Yeah, that makes sense.
Dana Grant didn't comment publicly about her mother's murder or the abuse they had endured. All she said was, quote, "We thought we had this terrible secret, but after this happened, we realized everybody knew about it." So Dot's alcoholism was no secret at all.
Damn.
Like, a lot of people knew that she was an alcoholic and that these girls had a bad home life. The autopsy revealed that Dot had suffered blunt force trauma to the head and had been hit 13 times with the candlestick.
Damn.
The first blow appeared to be from the back while she was possibly sitting at the kitchen table. When she tried to ward off the blows, Dot was beaten to the ground. She was already dead when the knife was plunged 3¼ inches into her vertebra.
Damn. That's a lot of force.
Yeah.
Wow.
Could a 14-year-old girl drive a knife that far into someone's neck? Or would it be more likely that a 16-year-old football player could do this?
That certainly demonstrates some strength. Now, I would say that if you're worked up and the adrenaline's pumping and stuff like that, there's the whole superhuman strength element of adrenaline and all that. But, if you take it on face value and you had to bet, which one are you going to bet on? The 16-year-old football player who lifts weights all the time, or the 14-year-old girl? That's kind of a hard choice. Not a hard choice to make. What's your money going to be on?
Someone had pressed the knife into Dot's hand to make it appear as though the wound was self-inflicted. The candlestick, when retrieved from the closet, had been wiped clean of fingerprints. Dot had also suffered injuries to the right arm and the left hand, which appeared to be defensive wounds. Gina was examined at the state mental hospital, but psychiatrists determined she was not mentally ill. However, one specialist noted the trauma of being a child of an alcoholic and referred to, quote, burning bed syndrome, which is often used in female-perpetrated intimate partner violence. The insanity defense can also be called the burning bed defense, which argues that persistent victimization interferes with the defendant's mental capacity, making her unable to tell right from wrong.
Now, that was a famous case, right? Where the woman set her abuser on fire in bed.
Maybe?
No, it was.
But there was a movie.
I'm telling
with
you,
Farrah
it is.
Fawcett.
Yeah, that was a big case.
But I feel like that was like a made-for-TV movie, but it was probably based on...
It was.
I think a real case, but I don't remember the details of it.
Okay, I'll get you to research that for me later and tell me about it.
Okay.
But I think that was a really famous, kind of bit sensationalized case. She actually set him on fire as he slept in the bed.
Good for her. Now, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Harold Morgan said, quote, "It was the worst case of psychological abuse I have ever seen, and I've seen other kids who kill their parents."
Wow.
This is what he said after examining Gina.
Damn.
When word spread that Gina Grant was alleged to have murdered her mother, the community was stunned. Gina was an outstanding student, positive role model, and a leader among her peers. And yet, despite the fact that this is kind of a deeply religious, conservative community, Dylan, they rallied around Gina.
Really?
She had a lot of support.
Well, and that's what. Well, and it was not a secret that that her mother was a bad alcoholic, and people suspected abuse. It sounds like, and that really does make people feel sympathetic towards children of a household like that.
Classmate Valerie Williams told reporters, quote, "When I heard about it, I thought it was a different Gina Grant. I just could not believe it's the same person." Christy Harrelson said that Gina was a different person around her mom. Valerie, who was Gina's other friend, said that Gina was a wonderful person who went above and beyond to fix other people's problems, though she rarely mentioned any of her own issues.
And that happens a lot too.
A fixer.
A fixer.
You're a fixer.
I'm a fixer.
You're a big fixer.
I'm a fixer to
Default, like a fault, not a default. But yeah, it's a bit of a default for you to fix.
No, but I am is to a
you
fault.
go to a default mode of fixing.
I go too far. I will fix when it's not in my best interest to try to fix. It's almost like a natural reaction for me.
I know.
But it's because I just want everything to be okay.
I know.
Huh. Yeah.
Mr. Fix-It. Now,
I can do it.
In January of 1991, Jack Swirling, Gina's attorney, and you may remember him because he was mentioned in the Wolves of King Street episode.
Yes, I remember that name, dude.
He was Mikey Schmidt's, or no, I think he was Pat.
Swirling.
He was Patrick's attorney.
Yeah, because didn't he did like a big case.
When he got busted in Colombia.
He was known for a big case he had worked on.
So Jack Swirling is her attorney, and he suggested that she plead no contest to voluntary manslaughter, and the prosecution would drop the first-degree murder charge against her. Gina Grant accepted the plea deal and was given an undetermined sentence to be served at a youth correctional facility not to exceed past her 21st birthday.
Wow.
Jack Hook was given the same sentence.
Now, as far as pleas go, if I was facing those charges, I got to say that's a favorable plea for the most part, right?
9 months later, a judge allowed Gina to transfer to a Massachusetts residential school for kids with emotional problems. She would reside there with her father's sister, Carol Bennett, and her husband, Alan, who would support Gina and pay for her care at this school. So they live in Massachusetts. They're going to allow her to go to this residential school because she has family support in that area. And the aunt and uncle are willing to pay for her treatment and care.
Okay. So this is even like a step down from juvenile. This is more like some kind of a school for wayward kids, if you will.
Okay. So in April of 1992, an article appeared in the Boston Globe. It was about exceptional children who had overcome adversity while still managing to succeed. 16-year-old Gina Grant, who was living alone in a Cambridge, Massachusetts apartment, was featured in the news publication. Gina was a straight-A student at Cambridge's prestigious Rindge and Latin School. With parents deceased, she had managed to maintain excellent grades while giving her time to helping others. Gina had spent the summer teaching biology to underprivileged children. She was living off a modest trust inherited from her father. She is quoted in the article as saying, I learned early on how to be independent.
You know, why don't they ever think privileged kids need to learn biology? I never understood that.
Gina had only spent a few weeks at the residential school before moving in with her aunt and uncle. Shortly after, Gina had a falling out with her relatives, reportedly over a boy, much like the situation with Jack Hook. She moved out and was living on her own.
Damn, this doesn't sound... I've never heard of something going down quite like this. Have you?
No. Marlene McLean of the South Carolina Juvenile Parole Board said, quote, "This young lady has made a mockery of the system and got off with a very light sentence." McLean, along with Sheriff Metz, were convinced that Gina had manipulated the system and had never taken true accountability for the brutal murder of her mother. Less than 18 months after killing Dorothy Mayfield, Gina was free. Sheriff Metz and Detective Phillips told the press that Gina was a violent sociopath willing to kill anyone who got in the way of what she wanted.
Damn.
However, the controversy was not over yet, Dylan. In January of 1995, Gina Grant is given admission to Harvard University. During the interview with the school, Gina had indicated that her mother had been killed in an accident. Yet after the Boston Globe article was published, someone anonymously sent old newspaper articles about Dorothy Mayfield's murder to the school. The following day, Harvard University rescinded their offer to Grant. She was denied a meeting with the admissions committee to discuss this offer being rescinded.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about her having a very high IQ.
Gina Grant hired an attorney who argued that she was not obligated to divulge information regarding a juvenile offense. By Massachusetts law, educational institutions are not allowed to ask about criminal matters that do not result in convictions. The matter sparked protest from both sides. Some campus faculty members, including some of the publications on campus, sided with Gina Grant. The allegations of Mayfield's alcoholism and abuse were driving factors for the murder, they argued. Gina was a model juvenile offender entitled to a fresh start. Famed Harvard professors Alan Dershowitz and Charles Ogletree openly criticized the school's decision.
This is crazy. Look at all these people you got speaking out on this.
Despite pressures, Harvard University would not allow her to attend. Gina had also been accepted at Barnard College and Columbia University, but those offers were also rescinded. Tufts University was the only school who allowed Gina's acceptance to stand. She entered the university as part of its class of 1999. Jack Hook, however, did not have the same turnaround after serving time in the youth correctional facility. He was arrested shortly after release on second-degree burglary, grand larceny, and safe-cracking charges. Hook was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. From what I can find, Dylan, he died in 2022.
Okay.
Gina Grant's name has long since faded from headlines, but the question remains, did she get away with murder?
Gosh, honestly, I thought I'd have a clearer picture here at the end, but I'm not sure. What do you think? I think she certainly dealt with an abusive parent and household. There seems to be third parties that certainly provide evidence of that to some degree. But did she manipulate this entire situation?
She's highly intelligent.
Right.
But I do believe she was the victim of abuse.
Agreed.
And I mean, I have to say, like, I'm not going to say she was, like, justified in what she did, but having grown up in a hell house with a terrible, abusive mother, I have to say, like, I feel sorry for Gina and what she went through and can kind of understand what she did.
So you're like Chris Rock, I understand.
I understand. Did she serve a very short punishment for it? Yes, she did. But she has never, like, reoffended.
True.
She's gone on to, become a good citizen.
Well, and Jack Hook certainly, did he become a better criminal having been in juvie or around other people? Or was he the
perpetrator?
And it was her last version the truth? And yeah.
Kind of think maybe so.
Right. Wow. Damn.
I mean, that's just what I don't know.
What a story.
I think it's going to bring up a lot of discussions for people. I'm sure folks out there have strong opinions after hearing the episode.
Yeah, and we welcome those opinions. We certainly enjoy a healthy discourse.
I see it like this, and I know people are like, oh my gosh, well, you can't, be okay with murder. But here's what I think. You have a kid, and yes, she's highly intelligent, but she's a kid. Her brain is not fully developed, right?
Yes.
She's in a situation when you're a kid and you're living in this kind of circumstance where you're being abused and you try to turn maybe to other people, but you don't have that support and other people can't really help you. You feel trapped and there's no recourse, right? Like, where is she going to go? What's she going to do? she feels trapped in the situation and like hopeless, and there's no way out.
Well, and if Dot truly did, she was the focus of her resentment and hatred for whatever reason, and if she did get physical with her over and over again, gosh, it's almost a natural reaction to think, if I don't do something, she's going to do it to, get me first. It's me or her, if you will. So, that's some really good points you're making. It doesn't make it okay, but it really helps.
But I understand it.
It helps you understand how they got in that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think until you've been that child that feels defenseless and hopeless and helpless, you're not going to understand. But I think for people who have been in those situations and have those feelings, it's relatable, and it's easier to understand like the hows and whys of it.
And as far as her sentence goes, she was allowed to do that. And anyone that's facing time for any reason is going to take that opportunity if it's presented. Any one of us would.
Yes.
I mean, who wouldn't?
100%.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is, she served her time, the sentence as it was given to her.
Right.
And at what point in our justice system, when someone has served their time and, paid for their crime, do we allow them to re-enter society and live normally without still trying to punish them?
Yeah, or having the stigma over them or against them.
Because once you've committed a crime, it seems like you're never truly free. You're always being punished for it.
Right, in one way or another.
Right. And she was a juvenile.
Yeah.
And it was sealed. So at the end of the day, it does seem to me like it was unfair.
Well, even if
the Harvard decision seems unfair to me.
Even if it's not true, a lot of people assume you don't have to disclose what's in your juvenile record for any reason.
Right.
As far as I know, it's true in most instances.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for that story, Heather.
By the way, my resources today were all newspaper publications. Surprisingly, there's no book on this case.
How could there not be a book and a movie?
No, right? And there's no documentary or anything like that. So I had to just comb through newspapers, and most of them were from the 90s.
Right.
But it was quite a, sensational case.
Yeah, I imagine there was a lot of opinions on this during that time.
In the 90s, especially, more came out when the Harvard protests kind of began. There was a lot more attention on it then. But
oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the story of Gina Grant. I don't know where she is today or what she's doing. There's speculation that she may have changed her name or whatever, but
yeah, that's common. In cases like this,
I guess wherever she is, hopefully she's gotten some help for her childhood trauma and is thriving, right? And has turned her life around.
Yeah. All right.
It's a wild story.
It is a very wild story, and like you said, I'm surprised there's not more of it's not more widely known. Honestly, look. So I looked this up for once, and actually the burning bed killing, which put domestic violence in the headlines, when Francine Hughes killed her abusive ex-husband by setting his bed on fire.
Okay.
The case made headlines in the 1970s and caused a national outcry. Today, despite stronger protections, millions of women a year are still abused by a partner. And that right there is where we need to end the episode, and we need to stop abusing your partner. If you hear this episode today and you are indeed abusing your partner, I want you to stop. Because it's fucking shitty, dude. So that's my PSA for today.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dylan, I present you with Dylan.
Running for city council.
Apparently.
Oh, I couldn't even run for a damn alderman position.
You couldn't?
Shit, no. When the damn skeletons start coming out. What?
You have too many skeletons in your closet?
They ain't
That's
even
what you're
in,
saying?
girl, they ain't even in the closet. Well, just they would use my podcast against me. Our podcast. Your podcast.
Yeah, they would be like, that girl apparently was weird in high school, and
And he's a tall, fat, smelly man. So is this who you want to be your leader of your community?
he married a girl in high school that was weird and didn't have big hair.
She liked flannels and combat boots with polyester leisure suits.
Does he sound like he makes the right choice? Because he does not.
He's stupid, dude. Oh, and another shout out to our sponsors of today's episode. Thank you so very much for your support over there on the Patreons. I can't wait till we do us another episode. We have so much fun over there. So much extra content. And I'm going to say so one more time.
So many activities.
So much room for activities, honestly.
On the podcast, exactly.
All right.
Okay, fat smelly man.
My nuts are cold. I got to go.
With those little cold nuts. We're going to say goodbye now.
All right. Bye, Heather.
Thank you for your service, Dylan.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Bye.